Hello guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another Noodle film review. Tonight we're looking at 1989 film called The Chill Factor. Now this is on Arrow Video Release and this came right at the end of the very 1980s, and it's a very sort of low budget kind of horror movie, and it's sort of based upon this group of friends going to a small area in America where it's, I think, sort of like an outback, sort of like in America, where the locals are not too friendly, especially to one of the girls. There's a black girl there, and and obviously there's quite maybe a racist sort of area. I don't know, but they're not very friendly to her, except the barmaid in the pub. Anyway, they go to this bar, and the first 15 minutes of the film is pretty much them on these sort of like snow skis, um, and we just see loads of shots of that, or them sort of like traveling through the snow, sort of racing each other, and all this kind of sort of thing going on, and then they all arrive at this sort of bar in, like I said, in this sort of outback area, and they go in, and as soon as the black girl walks in, the whole bar goes quiet. It's just like really weird, and one of the locals gets really sort of rowdy with the black girl, says, "Oh, you spilt my drink," and all this sort of thing. But one of the guys there is a real jock. He's like a American sort of footballer, college guy, and he sticks up for her, and he's her fiance. Anyway, the little sort of hustle breaks out in the bar, and the two locals get thrown out. And then the barmaid sort of starts talking to the sort of like group, saying, sorry about that, that the beer's on me, and they introduce themselves to them. They're all sort of boyfriend, girlfriends, brother and sister, and one of them's got their birthday sort of thing. So all this sort of thing going on. And two of the lads start arguing about who's the best sort of rider and who's the quickest. So they say, "Oh yeah, well, we're going to have a race one day." And the barmaid says, "What about going to this sort of lake area where it's all sort of flat, about sort of 20 or 30 miles out of town?" And they thought, "Yeah, we'll do that. We'll go and do that." So they all sort of set off to this sort of like lake area. It's all white, so you can't see anything. It's all snowed over, and there's a heck of a lot of grain on the film. Like I said, it's a low budget film, so it's probably filmed in sort of like 13 mil or whatever it has been filmed in. So it's quite low budget. Anyway, so they go to this lakeside and they all set themselves up for this race, and the two dudes go on a sort of like snow ski mobile race across this lake. Anyway, so they finish the race, and the guy that wins crashes his snowmobile, and he sort of goes flying through the air and hits a tree, and he's sort of like unconscious, and there's sort of all blood down his face, and he sort of broke all his hand up. It's all cut, and you can see the insides of his hand and all this sort of stuff. So they're all like obviously extremely worried because they're like 20-30 miles in the middle of nowhere, and there's nowhere for them to sort of go, which is kind of weird because they head out looking for somewhere like a house or a hut, and as they're looking behind them, you can see a house, and it's just like, well, what about that house behind? But I like that. That's cool. Anyway, so they finally come across this old like church, or sort of church or camp building. It's like a cross between a sort of summer camp and a church. And inside is all this sort of religious memorabilia and these pictures of like school kids and stuff like that, and camp kids. And so I think this is like a religious cult sort of building. Anyway, a couple of them have found this. So the girl goes back on the snowmobile, tell the others, and they manage to get the guy that's injured to this lodge, if you like. Let's call it a lodge, probably easier. And they sort of bring him in and build a fire and sort of bandage him up and stuff like that. And then the jock sort of goes off to try and find back to town to try and find a phone, so he can get him sort of like airlifted out because of his injuries and stuff like that. And the others sort of stay there with him, and he sort of semi comes round, and which they're sort of chuffed about, and they find this sort of a kind of like a Ouija board in there. So they're back at this hut and they're all safe, or are they? What's going to happen? Because the film takes a turn that you don't think, right, this is going to turn into a all-American slasher movie, and it doesn't. It takes a completely different direction, which makes it more unique. But that's all I'm going to tell you. What do I think of the chill factor? I thought it was great. I absolutely really loved the film. I thought it was really good fun. It gets not very good reviews, down to its sort of like I suppose low budget, almost shot on video sort of footage, camera work at some places, and some poor acting. But if you can battle through that, there's a good film to be found in this, and I found it straight away on first viewing. I thought, yeah, that's really cool. Really enjoyed it in it, and the fact that it takes a different sort of direction, I really like that too. Really, really cool. Great little film. The pluses of this edition is it looks pretty cool. Yes, some of the footage is pretty rough looking, and the voice, there's some voiceover at some parts which is pretty rubbish and annoying, but the most of it is really, really quite cool. It's a good little story. It's different. It's taken a little unique route to the normal sort of slasher movies, and I thought this was going to be like a sort of slasher movie where they're going to be stalked by these madmen or whatever, but it doesn't take that direction, and it's really, really cool. The minuses of the film, it's a little bit slow, and I think it could be doing with a bit more gory and stuff. It's only a 15, but it does have some sort of gore in the film, but not enough to get the sort of hardcore horror hounds on the case, if you like. I mean, because it's like, and I can see why a lot of people would find it a bit bland and a bit boring. But if you stick with it, it's very similar to films like Trapped Alive, The Mutilator, all those sort of like really low budget sort of movies. But this one's got a unique sort of turn to it, which is really, really cool. So I'm going to score the film a great watch and give it an 8 out of 10. And I think that's a really high score for a film that a lot of people say, no, it's not even worth a watch. And I disagree with all you people that say that. I think this has its own unique place in the horror genre and places. And it's really, really cool. And that is some great cover artwork there. Really, really cool. Really great little film. The chill factor. 8 out of 10. Any of you guys seen it? If you have, let me know down below what you thought of it. I was really reluctant to pick this up because I've been seeing a few reviews on YouTube and just thinking, well, but then when I was so attracted by the cover, the artwork, I thought, but that looks just so cool. It looks like it's going to be a great movie. And I thought, you know what? I've got probably movies that are probably a lot worse than this. And it was on sale in HMV for about £8. So I thought, yeah, well, I'll pick that up because it's not a bad price. And it's going to be one of those films that will just disappear and probably never, ever reappear again or get another release. So I thought, well, I'll pick it up. A bit like sort of Satan's Blade, those sort of films that are quite the first time on this sort of format. They probably come out on VHS back in the rental days, in the video store days, and that was it. They probably disappeared into obscurity. Now all of a sudden Arrow picked some of these sort of like old films up and give them their first sort of release on sort of new formats, and I think that's what we need more of, because I think there's a lot of hidden gems in there. If you look at the Enter the Video Store box set, there's so many gems in that box set. And this is a little gem too. I really enjoyed it. So go with instinct. Go in with, if you do decide to pick it up or watch it, go in with zero expectation. You're not going to get the best horror film ever made, and you're not going to get the worst horror film ever made. You're going to get something that's balanced. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. Guys, check out some horror channels for me. Check out Horror Hands, Horror Geek, Manly Film, RS Designs, Pizzlewell. I'm the Ice Lord, Cat watches horror movies, Sarah of Horror, and of course Grumpy Andrew's Haunted House. And a massive shout out to my lad Lemon Lord. Hope you're doing well, buddy. Until next time, look after yourselves, look after one another, and I really hope I'll see you all soon.